Hello students, welcome to KMPS Educates. We are studying chapter 2 of history, that is from hunting gathering to growing food. So let's begin with where we have left in the last video. So finding out about fire. So this is a map and here I have marked Kurnool caves with the red arrow you can see in the southern part of India, Kurnool Caves. So this is the place where the trashes of ash has been found by the archaeologist. They have found the treasures of ash, and from that we get to know that the earlier people or the hunter-gatherers were quite familiar with the use of fire. They have used fire in very different purposes for very different purposes, like the source of light, and they have used fire to roast the meat of animals, and sometimes they used fire to scare away the animals from their houses. So they were quite familiar with the use of fire, and they have used fire in many different purposes. Next we have Stone Age. So archaeologists have given lengthy names for the time that we are studying now, like we are studying 2 million years ago's time or 12,000 years ago's time. So there are different names for each time. So first we have Paleolithic period. So the Paleolithic time is the earliest time, and we can say it's the earliest period. And Paleolithic means, paleo means old and lithos means stone. So you can you can derive from that it was a first stone age where stone tools were used, and they have given many importance to stone tools. And the Paleolithic period extends from 2 million years ago to 12,000 years ago. Like 2 million से 12,000 years ago तक सिर्फ Paleolithic age चल रही थी. And it is divided in three parts: Lower Paleolithic, Middle Paleolithic, and Upper Paleolithic. And in the Paleolithic age, it covers the 99% of human history. Like this is the long span of time, and it was the longest age, you can say longest stone age, and it covers 99% of human history. Rest of the 1% covers in the different ages. So Paleolithic covers 99%, and it extends from 2 million years ago to 12,000 years ago. Next we have Mesolithic age. So the period when we find environmental changes, like when the climate changes happened in the world in 2012. In 12,000 years ago. So it was Mesolithic age, and it began from 2,000 years ago till 10,000 years ago. And this is also known as Middle Stone Age. Like it was in the middle, so it is known as Middle Stone Age. And in this period, very tiny stones were found by the earliest people. Like there were no big stones, there were tiny stones, like छोटे छोटे पत्थर बहुत इस टाइम पे मिले थे लोगों को जो earliest people थे. So they called those tiny stones as microliths, and they were used for the handles of the axe or the handles of the wooden tools, like the tiny stones for cutting the vegetables, or you can say whatever they do. So they have used them, and at the same time old varieties of tool were continued to use, like the tools which the earliest people were made in Paleolithic age, so they were continued to use in the Mesolithic. So next, the newest age is Neolithic age. So it began from 7,000 BC to 1,000 BC, and in this age, people were quite developed, and they have gained many knowledge regarding agriculture, and they have started settled agriculture. And the tools they used in this age were polished, like before in Paleolithic or Mesolithic ages, people used of stones, they haven't polished them, but in the Neolithic age they have developed and they started polishing stones for making the various tools. So that's all for the Stone Age. Next we have next point is a changing environment. So around 12,000 years ago, there were major changes in the climate, and like there and these changes led to the warm condition. Like physically, our environment became very warm, and from this, it leads to the development of grasslands. Like various big grasslands have developed during this period, and due to this there was an increase in the number of antelopes, increase like the animals who survived on grass, so like goat, antelope, deer, cattle, etc. So there were a huge increase in the number of these animals also, and the people who hunted these animals now have to follow them, and they learnt about the breeding seasons, which led them to think about herding and rearing animals. Like people who started thinking about rearing and herding, so like the increase of sheep and goat, or जो भी ग्रास पे सर्वाइव करते थे, जो भी एनिमल थे, तो उनके नंबर में बढ़ जाने से फिर लोग भी उनको, मतलब लोग जो उनको हंट करते थे, जो उनका मीट खाते थे या जो उनके स्किन का क्लोथ बनाते थे, उनको उन एनिमल्स को फॉलो करना पड़ गया। तो इस वजह से वो उनकी देखभाल करने के लिए उनको रेयरिंग करना आ गया एनिमल्स को, लाइक एनिमल्स को एज अ पेट, और लाइक डोमेस्टिकेट करना आ गया, और उनकी हर्टिंग करना, उनको कैसे संभालना है, उनका फूड वगैरह सब उनको आ गया था। तो फ्रॉम दिस पीरियड पीपल स्टार्टेड रेयरिंग एंड हर्टिंग एनिमल्स, एंड इन दिस time fishing also became important. Like when there was a huge change in the environment, fishing became important for the purpose of the food, for the purpose of surviving. So that's all for a changing environment. Next we have the beginning of farming and herding. So this was a time when several grain bearing grasses including wheat, barley and rice grew naturally in different parts. Like the grains which we used to grow and which we grow in these days, the most important, like wheat, rice, barley. So in that time they grew naturally in some parts of the world, and the people started collecting them and learned where to grow, and where to grow those seeds, and when to ripen. So they have learned very thing about they have learned many things about farming. And men and women and children, like the family members, they used to go in those areas where the wheat and rice grew naturally, and they used to collect the grains from there, and this have led them to think about growing plants on their own. So they started growing plants on their own. They have learned when to sow the seed, and they have also learned when to ripen, like when the seed is completely grown, so when they should be ripened. So in this way the people became farmers. Like they were quite familiar with the use of grains, with the use of wheat, barley, with the agriculture. So from that time people has become farmer, and farming has become very important. So people could also attract and then tame animals by leaving food for them near their shelters. Like domesticated animals like dog, goat, cattle, pig. People use these animals for the different purposes, like dog for their safety of the home, goat for the meat purpose or anything else, and like pig for eating. So they have used these different animals. So they started taming them, like they started domesticated them, and they learned how to keep them in their houses or near their houses. So the first animal which was to be tamed, and the first animal was to be tamed, was the dog. Dog was the first animal, do remember this. He was domesticated first, and later people encouraged animals that were alternately relatively gentle to come near the camps where they lived. And like after some time लोगों ने स्टार्ट कर दिया था कि जो भी एनिमल्स है, मतलब जो ऐसे मतलब वाइल्ड एनिमल्स नहीं है, अच्छे एनिमल्स है, शांत रहते हैं, तो वो लोग उनको पालना स्टार्ट कर दिया था, लाइक कैटल्स को, गोट्स को, जो कुछ करते नहीं है, दे सर्वाइव ऑन द ग्रास। तो लोगों ने उनको अपने घर के आसपास डोमेस्टिकेट करना शुरू कर दिया था। सो इन दिस वे दे हैव बिकम हर्डर्स, and लाइक दो जो उनके पेट एनिमल्स होते थे उनको प्रोटेक्ट करते थे वो लोग वाइल्ड एनिमल से, लाइक द goat can be eaten by any animal like tiger or lion or leopard. So they started protecting their domestic animals, and in this way they became the herders. Next point is domestication. So what is domestication? What do you mean by domestication? So domestication is the name given to the process in which people grow plants and look after animals. Like it's a process. It was started in 12,000 years ago. It was began in 12,000 years ago, and in this period people started growing plants on their own, and they started looking after animals, or you say domesticated animals like goat, dog, cattle, pig, and many more. So for growing plants, people have to select the plants also, and for domesticating them people have to select the animals also. Like they cannot domesticate a wild animal like tiger or lion. They have to select animal which जो मतलब शांत हो, ऐसे ग्रास पे सर्वाइव कर जाए. So they selected plants and animals for domestication. For example, they select those plants which are not poisonous or they are not prone to disease. Like कुछ plants ऐसे होते हैं जिनको खाने से हमें बीमारियां हो जाती है बहुत सारी, उनमें बहुत सारे बैक्टीरिया वायरसेस होते हैं तो उनसे हमें बीमारियां हो जाती है. So जो people थे उन्होंने कुछ ऐसे plants select करे हैं जो मतलब एकदम सेफ हो हमारे लिए, जिनको हम खा सके, उनसे हमें एनर्जी वगैरह. So the seeds of the previous plants were preserved, and they have ensured that the new plants will have the same qualities. लाइक जो पहले हमारी क्रॉप हुई थी वो अच्छी क्रॉप हो, तो जो सीड्स हैं लोग प्रिजर्व करके रखते हैं नेक्स्ट ईयर के लिए, ताकि हमें सेम अमाउंट में इतना ही और सेम क्वालिटी का क्रॉप हमें नेक्स्ट ईयर भी मिले. So from this point of view, people has developed their mind, developed their knowledge regarding agriculture. So we can get to know they have become quite intelligent or quite knowledgeable about agriculture. So in the domestication, they have to be aware of the like wild animals and pet animals. So like the horns of wild animals are usually much larger than those of domesticated animals. Like जो wild animals होते थे वो domesticated animals से बहुत large होते थे, बड़े होते थे और डरावने भी होते थे, like scary होते थे बहुत ज़्यादा. So you can see two teeth, two teeth are here. So like one tooth is of a wild animal and one tooth is of a domesticated animal. So what do you think, which one of is of wild animal and which one is of domesticated animals? So the small teeth is of the domesticated animal, or you can say the domesticated pig, and the large teeth is of the wild pig. So you can see the difference about the domesticated and wild animals. So that's all for domestication, and that's all for this video also. So to be continued. We'll cover the rest of the chapter in the next video. So thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe to our channel. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.